Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the K-State Insiders. Hold on, I don't even have the right back. Down lower third on there. We're in the wrong room. Hold on, I'll be right back. My goodness, what a mess. There we go. We're in the wrong room.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, yep.
Okay, folks, let's pretend that didn't happen. Tim Fitzgerald, as always, Ryan Gilbert, Cole Carmody, and Ethan Fitzgerald. Didn't really go by that. I make him because it's good for the brand. If the Fitzgeralds have a brand in the United States.
Yeah.
And our friend, Tim Everson from a cave somewhere in Tora Bora. I'm not sure where he's at, but wherever it is, they don't have working lights.
It's the Osama bin Laden cave.
Yes, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like a terrorist cave video. But that's okay. He's in the process of moving, so some of his stuff's at the old place. He's at the new place, and he got a place without lights. I don't know, but we're going to muscle through it. Make sure you're subscribing to GoPowercat.com. You've got some time to get in on the 70% off. It ends soon. Make sure 75% off. Make sure you take advantage of that. Don't miss out on this opportunity. I still think it's going to be a really fun football season, and we have plenty to discuss coming out of that 38-35 victory. It doesn't feel like it. It was over in North Dakota, who came in ready to play, and K-State was not. Tim, let's start there. Give me your overall thoughts on the tragedy that wasn't, or maybe it was, it just ended in victory for the Kansas State Wildcats on Saturday.
Well, to give you an idea of how confident I felt that it wasn't going to be a loss, I had a losing game story about 80% done when that 6-yard pass to Joe Jackson scored. So, that.
Oh, he froze now.
They got him.
I tell you what.
Osama bin Laden silencing you.
You sign on from Tora Bora, they're going to get you. Yeah. Just to pick up on that, we've all done that. Any of us who are in the newspaper business, you got to write. You're on deadline. You got to write. And then you get the old flip at the end, and it's total chaos. But Cole, give me some more of your magic, the essence of your awesomeness, because God, that line was mediocre on Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm awesome. I do find kind of amusing just looking at Tim as he's frozen. Oh, now he's gone.
I gotta figure out what to do with him. I don't know. We're gonna remove him, and we're gonna go this way. Okay, you talk. What a mess.
Okay. I'm gonna talk about the offensive line. I'll take Big B's spot on the offensive line. And
okay.
Guys, first of all, if you, as Fitz said, if you haven't subscribed to GoPowercat, I think it's a really good time to do so, because we're doing Tale of the Tape as a feature we've had for quite a long time, ever since I've started working here, where I've wrote about the plays, and kind of did some analysis on the X's and O's. If you're really into that kind of stuff, then that's definitely, it was worth a read. Well, now it's going to be worth a watch. And so we've kind of transitioned from the writing aspect to more of the me rambling aspect, but I don't think I ramble. I feel like I do a pretty good job at expressing my thoughts. And I saw some combinations on the offensive line, Fitz, that puzzled me at times. This fascination with Andrew Langang at tackle, it kind of reminds me of, I'm not comparing Andrew Langang to Cooper Beebe, but I'm going to use that comparison where Cooper Beebe had to play tackle because they didn't have anybody else. I feel like they do have somebody else at tackle. And Gus Hawkins, I think, had some plays on Saturday that were really, really good. His best trait is his athleticism, and his Pro Football Focus grade maybe wasn't the greatest, but I think that has to do more with the fact that he didn't get very many snaps. And Chris Kleiman alluded to that on Monday. I think we're going to see Gus Hawkins play tackle more, and we're going to see Andrew Langang play guard. But as a unit, it felt like they never had a chance to get in rhythm. And maybe that's not where you thought I was going to take this, Fitz, but when they ran the ball, it really wasn't that bad. They just never ran the ball. And so that is perplexing to me. And I'll be really interested to see how that works against Army, because it felt like if they got 2 yards, okay, they weren't going to run it again. It's going to happen sometimes, but you got to keep running the ball, and they failed to do that. And maybe that's because they had another game plan, but I really would like to see them run the ball more because they really just didn't try against.
I agree. I don't think there was enough layers to the play calling in either game so far. Okay, Tim Everson, in theory, is back.
In theory,
we're 80% done with your story, and then you froze, which we've all also done while on deadline.
Yes,
but this was actually you froze. So yeah, that's no fun, but it's better than the team you covering ended up losing.
Yeah, the residuals of an actual loss to an FCS team. Luckily, I had not started covering K-State when North Dakota State happened. I was in the student section for that wonderful evening. Yeah, it was bad. But no, to wrap up what I was saying was, it maybe like when they got that stop, I felt a little more confident that they were going to pull it out. But the vibes were bad pretty much all game. I mean, it was not. There wasn't a lot of confidence to be had from really any side of the ball until that the last stop and that final drive.
Yeah, that's a good point. It seemed like they lacked some self-belief, and not until Avery rallied the troops, and I'm told he was, we've been calling for him to be more vocal, that he did get vocal in that second half with trying to get guys going. But Ethan, you were down there on the field shooting some stuff for us. You'll have something pop up tomorrow from the drone show. But what were your thoughts seeing that up close? And could you pick up on kind of the, I don't know, energy of the game and how poorly it was going for Kansas State?
Yeah. I felt like, it felt like after the third quarter, all had been resolved. Everything was fixed. Because they played really well in the third quarter on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. It almost seemed like they kind of were just like, okay, hey, we've done it. We figured it out. We're good. And then North Dakota came back and just sucker punched them again in the fourth quarter. And it never felt really like they were confident until that final drive that Avery pretty much put together. But yeah, you could kind of tell after the third quarter, they were confident again, but they were overly confident. Like, hey, we figured it out. We've stopped them every time they've driven. We scored 2 times. We have the lead again. Almost like, oh, this is an FCS school. We figured it out. We're ahead by 10 points. Yeah, it just felt undisciplined to kind of let what happened after that. But yeah, until that final drive, yeah, I mean, concerning that they were so unfocused almost after how good the third quarter went.
Gills, that would have been, look, North Dakota State when they won in Manhattan was really good. And that was during their national title run. Don't confuse them for the other team in North Dakota. They have greatly improved. They used to be awful. They're a pretty good team now. They're mid-level in the Valley, which means you're a pretty good team. But that was uncalled for. K-State let that happen. And as Chris Kleiman said after the game, you let someone hang around, they're going to hang around, and they might win. You got to come out and put your foot down and open up a lead and hurt their feelings. This team doesn't seem to want to be definitive until it's almost too late or too late.
I'd like to tie everything that Tim and Ethan kind of just said about maybe that third quarter. And I know, Tim, you said they didn't have good vibes all game, paraphrasing you a little bit, but third quarter was great. You have 3 punts. It was like a negative 10 yards for North Dakota in the third quarter offensively. So your defense was finally clicking. You had 2 drives on offense. Both of those resulted in touchdowns. And so there is something to build off of as long as you learn from it. But that's just, I think, a sign of immaturity at the end of the day when you're up by 10, up against an FCS opponent. And in the back of your mind, you think that you can just put on cruise control and walk to a victory. I mean, I get it. it's a different level of opponent, but it's still college football. I mean, I don't want to call this North Dakota's Super Bowl, but this is their one opportunity all year long that they have in front of a true packed, juiced up house. And so to think that North Dakota was just going to walk away after the way that the first and second quarters went is just a big sign of immaturity or maybe just too much self-confidence. But you can't tell me K-State didn't think it was just going to go out and win after the way the third quarter went. You could see it. Guys maybe just weren't locked in. I know, we've talked a lot about, I guess, Kleiman and the players have talked a lot about trusting their eyes or being smart with their eyes. And Cole, Ethan, Tim, and other Tim, I can tell you right now, if you are not fundamentally sound with your eyes and you buy that eye candy that Army wants to give you, you are not going to win the game.
It's going to get embarrassing. If they're looking at the wrong things and not worried about their one thing, because that's how you stop a triple option. Everyone's in charge of something. Do your job and it stops. They're looking for people that don't do their job, who aren't disciplined, who aren't looking at the right things, who are not in the right spot, and then they get you pretty good. This is almost Tim. I don't know if this is a nightmare system to go up against for Kansas State right now, when their defensive-minded head coach knows that their eye discipline stinks. They're peeking into the backfield when they shouldn't be, and all kinds of stuff. To play a team that demands 100% compliance to that has got to be a little troubling, or it's a good thing because now they can't mess around. They're going to get absolutely humiliated if they do.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously going to be like top of mind throughout practice all week. And I thought it was interesting today when Kleiman was talking about that the players that have that good eye discipline will play, even if they are not the most talented, even if they're not the guys that are maybe the most experienced. I'm curious to see maybe who that is and who that isn't, who he was kind of secretly calling out without calling anyone out. But I mean, it seems like that is top of mind for Kleiman and Joe Klanderman, is to not have that be an issue, because I think if they get that fixed, this Army team is not last year's Army team.
Yeah,
they are very beatable. Just ask Tarleton State. So if they find a way to get their kind of biggest Achilles heel from the last couple games out of the way, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about being able to take that next step and looking more like a team that was supposed to be ranked to start the year and contending for a Big 12 title. But you got to get that fixed.
Indeed.
You guys remember last basketball season? I believe it was Texas Tech when Moby and David Castillo were on the floor in crunch time in the final moments, and Jerome Tang said post game, I think he said, those who are worthy of wearing a uniform are going to be on the court. He said something along those lines. I can't remember word for word.
Oh yeah.
Different. Obviously that, that's kind of, I wouldn't say apples and oranges here, but at the end of the day, your head coach is going to go with the guys that either are buying in or just aren't making the silly mistakes. So root cause, I mean, your head coach is, it doesn't matter how talented you are or how much NIL money you got. If you can go out and defend this run game against Army, you're going to be in there.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about that. One of the things that really troubled me was when they yanked VJ Payne and whoever else was out there at safety and put in Logan Bartley and Gunnar Maldonado. And one play later, they ran right through the gap. I think that was supposed to be filled by Bartley. But he went on to say VJ Payne was basically one of the worst with his eyes in this game. That's something a coach notices. I'm not locked in on that. And that makes sense. That would make sense why they took him off the field at that point. And I think that message that when he said that was aimed right at the safeties, because the safeties can't mess around. They got to be doing the right thing in this game. And as soon as you are convinced it's going to be run, they'll throw it over the top of you. And I believe this quarterback is considered a better throwing threat than they've had. If I'm Army, I give them a whole bunch of options and then just start throwing it, because I don't have any faith that the defensive backs will be doing the right thing. They've struggled. Sometimes they're really good, and other times, I think they maybe saw some players that they were counting on that didn't get it done, and other players who were deeper down the depth chart who stepped in and did some good things. So there might be some shuffles on that internal depth chart this week. Cole, I don't care who they play. I really don't. If they're the best players, they should be out there. But you also have to have some experience, particularly against an offense like this.
No doubt. And this week practice is going to be really important. And every week practice is really important. But, I think when we hear that, we have to be better in practice, the energy in practice has to be there, fans and media alike, respectfully so, think about, okay, the starters have to be good. But this week, it's everybody. It's the entire team. Even those guys who are not going to play, they're on the scout team, and they are the ones who are responsible for being Army. And if they're not giving a good look to the defense during the week, then it will take some adjusting. I mean, nobody on this defense has ever gone up against, an offense like this, maybe in high school, but not in college. And so these teams in the American who play Army every single year, it's a little different. Credit to Tarleton. I give Tarleton State a bunch of credit, and they defended it in a week. People forget they played in week 0. So it's not even like they had the entire offseason to prepare for them. Now, granted, they played a Portland State team who was one of the worst FCS programs in the entire country. So I'm sure they mixed Army in there as well. But the scout team has to be on point this week. And that's something that I'm really interested in. And maybe you guys who are going to be at the coordinators on Thursday can bring that question up, because do they have the personnel to do that? I don't know, but they have to be good. And honestly, if you want to earn a spot, that's where you show out. That is where you earn playing time, is on the scout team. And it'll be interesting. I know I'm kind of rambling there, but somebody needs to step up. And it's probably going to be somebody who's playing on the scout team, because as you guys have very well said, it'll be interesting. I know I'm kind of rambling. I just heard reverb.
That was weird.
Weird.
The bottom line is this: whoever's good enough needs to play, and you start by doing that in practice.
I think the computer was possessed by you for a second.
I think it was.
Started doing its own thing. I agree with all that. And that is a problem when you're facing an offense with maybe a different approach than what you see week to week. You've got to be able to replicate it in practice. The scout team has probably no experience in running the triple option, and they have to learn how to do it effectively. Because if you're not running it effectively, the guys will form bad habits on how to read the plays. They'll use it as cheat code in practice to look good and then stink in the game. Down on the field, did you hear restlessness from the fan base throughout that game?
I mean, yeah, they got booed off at halftime. I don't remember the last time I've heard the fans boo. I don't even remember the North Dakota State game. That's so long ago.
There were boos.
I've also never seen after the game when North Dakota was leaving the field, the fans were cheering, applauding the North Dakota players as they left the field. Yeah, and I mean, even big plays, especially after that North Dakota touchdown in the fourth, take the lead, was dead quiet. I mean, until Avery had that big run, even the fans weren't even really okay, we threw a 12-yard pass. Okay, yeah, a little bit. Maybe there's something happening. But once Avery hit that run, then everyone was back in. But no, there was definitely people were kind of starting to doubt that K-State would actually pull it off. Every right. So, I mean, it looked like K-State was dead in the water.
Yeah. I mean, the possession before it on offense, you thought, okay, here they go. It's crunch time. And they fizzled out. It took the defense getting the ball back one more time. North Dakota was one first down basically away from winning that game.
Yep.
That game's going to haunt them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're ranked. I think they're ranked now. I think they're number 20 in the FCS. Yeah.
They jumped almost 10 spots into the FCS Bowl.
And I understand that. And watching them, that was an extremely well-coached and well-prepared team.
Mm-hmm.
much more than Kansas State.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of upsetting.
Yep.
I bet you the entire staff doesn't make as much as one coordinator at Kansas State. So, I mean, good for them. Good for them. I know this. I'm going to keep hammering on this. I know fans are really beginning to get upset. I'm going to lose my mind on special teams. I'm beginning to question if they even have a plan on special teams or it's just good enough to get by, because they're not even doing that. They're hurting the team. Special teams has always been the secret sauce, and now it's actually hurting the team. Tim Everson, I turn to you as a friend, as a colleague, as one of my life coaches, and ask you to explain what in the hell is going on with K-State special teams.
I unfortunately don't think I'm going to be that much help. I mean, it's troubling. It's hard at this point, and it's hard not to look at Nate Katzer and be like, I'm sorry, sir. What do you do? What do you do here?
Yeah.
Like things were better off before they had a designated special teams coach. I know that Kleiman trusts him. I know that Kleiman also has a loyalty thing
To a fault.
but he's also shown in the past that, look, when the rubber hits the road, and if you're holding this team back, he will Courtney Messingham someone. I mean, it's not. I don't know. It doesn't feel it. I'll tell you what also makes it kind of compounded a little bit. And Luis Rodriguez is fine. I mean, he's been good so far. Honestly, he's been the special teams highlight so far.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say what it is. It kind of hurts though, whenever you're watching South Florida and you see the
youngest grammatical
son of a certain Ring of Honor inductee kicking 50-yard field goals, someone that definitely had a campus visit, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know if they're not it's just not as big of a focal point in practice, because obviously it was huge. It was major time was spent on it. High level players were playing on special teams, and that's just the way that it was. I don't know. I mean, maybe the new roster size affects things a little bit, and they got to have a lower caliber player out there just because they don't have that many guys available. I don't know, but it just seems like every game we get more and more and different ways of them to kind of be an embarrassment. And it's as a K-State person, as someone who's grown up since 1989, that is a key part of the identity of K-State football. It is how things were built, how the West Stadium Center was built, how Veneer was built, how it all came together was that was a huge tenet of that. And to lose that, it becomes more and more troubling every game.
Fitz, I got to ask you this question because you're the special teams guru at this point. Bryce Nornberg, I think it's worth talking about. Listen, Bryce Nornberg, one of the best players to play in the Sunflower League in the last 15 years. An amazing high school football player. Comes to K-State as a preferred walk-on, and last year got onto the field with the kick return. I personally have no problems with Bryce Nornberg being on that team or being on that kick return team, but you have to put somebody back there with him who either A, is a really, really good blocker, or B, is another threat to return the kick. Because right now it's JB Price, and I don't know if JB Price has ever returned kicks in his life. I don't recall him doing it in high school at Blue Valley. Why not put a guy back there who is going to be a dynamic playmaker? I really like JB Price, but if he's kicked the ball, he's not going to break anything and outrun anybody. He's a running back. Unless you're Dylan Edwards, that's not what you do. So if you're going to put Bryce Nornberg back there, that's fine. But I feel like you have to put another threat back there. And I thought Coach Kleiman's answer was very telling about the kick return situation. If you're going to return every single kick out of the end zone, you better at least get to the 25-yard line. And they're not doing that right now. They're not. So either let the ball go through the end zone or get past the 25-yard line and we're fine. But this starting every single drive at the 20, at the 19, at the 22, it just doesn't work.
What's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point of even trying to go and do anything with punt return? You're either fumbling the punt return or you're running into the kicker. I mean, at this point, you should just stop doing everything all together on special teams.
Catch everything
coming of it.
I'll give Sterling some credit. Sterling had a nice return. Sterling had a nice punt return there.
Okay, but Sterling is the bright spot here, but he should be playing more on special teams.
Well, when I watch back film, like the film I recorded, the blocking on punting is horrendous. Sterling's not going to have a chance.
Yeah,
because no one's blocking. I mean, he doesn't have any space to go anywhere. But
there's no blocking on punt return.
Yeah, no, there was none when I watched it back. There's like no blocking.
Well, I don't understand what this man is doing. Look, you come from the NFL and it's business. It's business. And the guys playing special teams know that's the only way some of them are ever going to see the field. They're going to make themselves visible by making plays, doing everything right. And then maybe I'll be trusted to go play defensive back or whatever. Here, it's so much different.
I got to put this comment up.
It's so much different because these are young guys. Yeah, they're trying to access the field this way, but they don't know what the hell they're doing. They need to be told. Special teams in high school isn't that important. And I like Bryce a lot as a returner with this exception. He's not very strong. The fumble was because of a lack of strength, and he got arm tackled when he hit a gap. He hit a gap. He could have been gone.
Mm-hmm.
But someone stuck out an arm, and that's all it took. You got to have someone that can run through some of that. Give me DJ Reed. Give me a defensive player at back there. Give me someone. They need a dynamic person that when the hole opens up and they get through it, you ain't catching them. And what they have right now isn't. You're exactly right about JB Price. He's out there to block, but people are going to kick it to him eventually. But why bother with that when you're probably pitting them behind the 25 with every return?
So I put back up. I put this comment up here. I didn't want to cut you off. Dustin, it's not the fumbles or even the penalties that show the terrible coaching of Katzer, but the 9 players out there for the field goal block or the last minute run on with the extra point. I noticed this. Uso Seamalu had to run out there on PAT. That's coaching. You cannot put that on the play. That's not on the players. That is all on the coaching. Because if you have guys who don't know what special teams they're on, there's some kind of miscommunication. You should be walking through special teams before the game. You should have special teams meetings before the game. And maybe they do. But I find it very hard to believe that these guys that they don't know what team they're on. That's just utter nonsense. That's what it is. It's utter nonsense.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the one time we've had Nate Katzer for media. That was in the fall camp. He came in with, I think it was the defensive coaches. Yeah. Came in with defensive coaches. And we had him for what, Gills? 9 minutes of audio? During which he didn't say much of anything. Very mechanical in his answers. Very, very NFL business. I'm straight business here. But one comment stuck out to me when asked about who his place kicker would be. He described Rodriguez as the best because, quote, he's been available. Well, I'm watching the kid. I think he's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. But I thought that was just an interesting phrasing for a coach who is proving the best he is available. It tells me a lot about his philosophies. This ain't working. I'm just going to say it. Whatever this is, it ain't working. And if the coaches want to get mad at me for calling out a coach, I rarely do it. But this is a major issue with your fan base. If you don't understand the thought of special teams, the very essence of special teams, what it is to this particular football culture, because they know without it, none of what took place happens. Bill Snyder was able to access being in games by dominating this area of the game and maybe getting 3 points out of this. You get a touchdown here, you block a field goal there. Oh yeah, we scooped up that blocked extra point, ran it back for 2. See Terrence Newman going? It's always been a way to even the tables. And when they were really good and they were doing special teams, they could play at a national level. This is the kind of embarrassing special teams that Kansas State used to take advantage of. And the fans see it, the fans know it, and the fans demand better. Because this, honestly, by K-State standards, is a total and complete embarrassment. You've had a muff, you've had a fumble, you've had a penalty that extended the drive because you ran into the punter, and I believe that drive ended in a touchdown.
He did.
Yep.
You're killing the team because your units can't do their job. And I'm not putting a bunch of young guys and throwing them under the bus. They deserve better coaching because obviously they're not being told some pretty basic stuff that you must be assuming they know. Nobody's getting blocked. They're just running past people. There's no lanes to run through, hardly ever. When it is, I really think the returner is shocked. They expect to die if they try to run the ball on him, particularly poor Sterling. He has no opportunity because the defense is on top of him. The coverage team is right there. Sorry. I got to cut back on my caffeine.
You take 2 5 hours for the show?
No, just one.
When do we officially pull a Bill Belichick and say on to Cincinnati, but on to Army? Like, and I say we, I mean us, the fans, the coaches. At what point do they say everything that's happened up to this point is behind and you have to look forward? Because I feel like it's very easy inside that locker room for those coaches and those players to sit there and look at that game and just get so frustrated. Because I know when I looked at the tape, like the whole reason that this was a close game was because they couldn't get off the field. Let it be known. It's not that North Dakota was consistently picking up first downs on first and second down. They had them 3rd and long. They had them 4th and 15, and then roughing the kicker or whatever. Like they couldn't get off the field. And when they got into the red zone, North Dakota scored touchdowns. What's K-State normally do? Bend but don't break. So I could see how, the frustration would build so much when they watch that tape. At some point, just have to move on. And I'm interested to see if on Saturday that frustration is taken out onto Army or if that frustration is still stewing because of the missed opportunities of the last 2 weeks.
Okay, Tim and Gills, I want to know, what did you think of Chris Kleiman today? His demeanor, and because there was tension in there. There's usually not tension. He's very lighthearted. He still gave me some crap, which is good. But I'm told behind the scenes, it's not a fun place to be right now. He's pretty pissed off, and he should be. He doesn't want to show that to the fans. I think that's interesting. When Bill Snyder was mad, everyone knew it.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted the team to know he's telling the public they're doing things wrong. Every coach has a different approach, but Tim, start with you. What did you think of Chris Kleiman's demeanor today?
I thought that he appeared maybe a slightly more upbeat than I thought it was going to be for most of it. There was, I'm trying to remember what the answer was, but there was one answer where he did kind of get a little bit of a head of steam, and I think it was when he was talking about the players that were available and then the roster sizes and stuff. When he was talking about, we have a 105 roster, but 20 are hurt and whatever. I think that was the most that you kind of saw the frustrations of the situation spill through. But I didn't feel that much tension. Not to disagree with you, but I thought it was mostly normal until that one long answer that he gave. I wish that I remembered more where
Well,
it felt like he was really kind of. I think it was Matt Walter's question that he was responding.
yeah, I see his point. He's used to having, excuse me, all these bodies in practice that help them get through scrimmages and stuff. He said we're basically down to 70 guys between the guys that are injured or out and the guys we want to try to redshirt. I personally, I believe that if they're going to go to these roster limits, they need to go 5 seasons to play 5 seasons. Just get rid of the whole red shirt concept. You're either playing or you're injured. But I understand his point. Maybe roster limits will get bumped up a little bit. Because K-State did cut down before the NCAA decided, oh, we'll let you carry grandfather people in. Well, thanks for the late notice. It's so typical. But this is the game now. This is how it's going to be. And I would think, with all that said, that having a smaller roster means you have to feed fewer people in practice, that your guys should be getting more reps.
Mm-hmm.
There's just less, guys that are never going to play in drills, going through the drills and taking up time. I don't know. But Gills, give me your thoughts on today's press conference.
This might be a little somewhat controversial given everything we've just talked about for the last half hour with regards to some coaching, but it felt almost as if, and I'm more with you, Fitz, than Tim about the not hostility, but Kleiman was on one. He was a little edgy, in my opinion. I did see it more. But it just feels like Kleiman, up to this point, through 2 games, he's obviously frustrated with a lot of things out of his control from the NCAA, but seems like he feels like he's done all he can to get his team into a good position to win games. And the rest of his coaching staff isn't putting together a good enough game plan, or his players aren't executing to a number of degrees. I just kind of got that vibe that, yeah, if I'm Chris Kleiman, I'm thinking, man, I've done everything I could, and we lost our opener and just won by 3 points to an FCS school. So I think that's where some of Kleiman's frustration is coming from. And you heard that on Saturday as well after the game in the post game when he talked about the defense and the eye discipline, how that clearly was not there. He said it was, I quote him, awful in that game against North Dakota. So I think Kleiman's more just frustrated. I think he feels like he's put his team in a good, position to succeed. And clearly the first 2 games have not been successful.
I agree. And let me see if I can find this comment. Here we go from our friend Gabriel. Every problem this team has a common culprit: coaching. It all boils down to coaching. I think you're right, Gabriel. And I think that explains exactly what Gills was saying with why there was tension. He knows his teams aren't being prepared. And at the end of the day, it's on him. He's the coach of the coaches. If they're not performing, it's his failing. And he knows that. However, at some point, players are accountable for their own preparedness. And I asked him if I can't remember the exact word I used, but if they were coming out without much energy, and he shot it down in Dublin. And I understand why he did. His defense got to stop, and then they muffed the punt. But this team that played Saturday just looked like they didn't give 2 craps about being out there. It looks like it was like hard work. Oh, we got to go to work today. Got nothing to do but have to play this damn game. If you can't go out 12, well, anymore to 18 times a season and really put it all out there, emotionally and physically, I don't know what you're doing, man. Why are you even playing the game? Why are you going through all the crap you go through? The summers are pure hell. You're training in Kansas heat. We were talking about how much muscle these guys have stacked. That ain't easy. You're getting your butt kicked in strength and conditioning. Practice, practice, practice. Then you get to a game and you're like, oh, let's go play. I don't get it. God, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it, you're insulting the fans. You got 52,000 fans showing up for you. There's a few North Dakota fans, but not many. The place was packed. Don't take that for granted. The reason that it's packed is because the guys before you have put it all out there. All of it. They fought to the very end in games they couldn't win. Was it perfect? No. You lose to North Dakota State. You almost lose to a Eastern Kentucky. Is that what it was? I don't even...
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there an eastern part of Kentucky? Or is that just a myth? I don't know.
Kind of like West Virginia. It's not really.
Yes,
West,
it's very confusing. But I feel like this team needs some more of the greats to come back and tell them they suck. What you're doing right now isn't worthy of the purple, because it's not.
Just look at Twitter.
Yeah.
They're on there.
Mm-hmm.
Fitz, you bring up a lot of good stuff. And I think that the only positive to come out of that game on Saturday is that I don't think we'll see another one of those performances the rest of the season. And if this was a first-year coaching staff, if this was a first-year head coach, if this was a team that was brand new, maybe I wouldn't say that. But Chris Kleiman has a history of righting the ship. And last year they were 7-1. They finished 8-4. Okay, that's fine. I understand that. And then they won their bowl game, right? Like that they figured it out when they had to figure it out. I think that the wake up call was very real for this group. I think that the idea of rolling out and being better than your opponent is also very real, especially when you relax, when you go up by third quarter. The emotional highs in that game, the peaks and valleys were just incredibly extreme. And people bring up the Ireland trip, and I don't really buy into that, but what I do buy into that is the routine. Iowa State practiced. People want to talk about it didn't affect Iowa State. Well, they practiced. K-State didn't practice on Monday or Tuesday. Iowa State did. And Chris Kleiman talked about that at his press conference. Maybe we should have done this differently. And I bet he wishes he would have. And so I would be very surprised if the effort level, if the care level is low the rest of the season. I quite frankly, I'd be shocked. And if fans see K-State go out and lay some more eggs, I think that's very valuable. And you can have all the criticisms in the world. But I just caution folks, after one game, don't jump to conclusions because it takes more than just 60 minutes of football to determine what the overall character of a football team is going to be. They're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, Cole, I don't want to bring too much optimism into this team, but you guys know I enjoy betting on NFL.
What?
And if this was an NFL team that had this type of performance and it was a organization with decently good culture and a good locker room and a good stable head coach, I would absolutely hammer them. Teams do bounce back usually when they're healthy. And I don't think this is an unhealthy locker room, right? They obviously have some issues, but fundamentally this has absolutely no comparisons to, say, Chris Kleiman's 2020 locker room, which, funny enough, I was texting with Sammy Wheeler for our former player roundup here that'll go up later in the week on GoPowercat. He said one of his things was, K-State lost to Arkansas State, and 7 days later, was it 7 days or was there a bye? I can't remember because that season was all jacked up.
The week, yeah.
They go out and beat Oklahoma, who was a pretty damn good team. Yeah. So that's, obviously is such a frustrating game from top to bottom on Saturday against North Dakota. But I guess that's the joy of sport, is that you get a quick turnaround and you can flush it and move on and go out and have a great performance, just a number of days later.
I think you're right. I mean, we're going to find out a lot about the character of this team. And, this is the exact perfect test right now. You're not being very disciplined. You're not playing up to your abilities. Here's a bunch of guys that all they're going to do is play up to their abilities, which isn't nearly as high as yours. And they're going to be disciplined. Oh, they're going to be disciplined. That's their entire life. When you make the bed every morning or get yelled at, you get pretty disciplined. And they're going to do everything correct and take advantage of your mistakes. I don't know. I think they're going to win easily, but I thought that would be the story of last Saturday. Just not sure. Let's talk about Avery Johnson. His stats again were pretty good, but boy, he got off the hook, didn't he? He could have had 5 interceptions. Of course, he wouldn't have had that many because one of them would have been intercepted, and then he wouldn't have thrown the next one. He went through a spell. Was it the second quarter when he was just throwing it all over the place? Had no sense of where anyone was. That was the most worried I've been about him and the mental space he's occupying when he kept making the same mistake, trying to throw the ball through a defender. Doesn't work out, does it, Tim?
No, and there were also at least one notable time during one of the stalled drives, and I think it happened a couple times where he just missed, as in just didn't see wide open receivers streaking down the field. I know there was one where Jerron Tibbs was turned around and was like, I'm right here. Where I don't know if that's just kind of a symptom of kind of the larger problem that the team has, where it's just not, when the focus isn't there, the focus isn't there for everybody. And I don't know. I think that I have trouble overreacting to that part of it, specifically the Avery part of it, because he's been able to find a way. And I think Cole may have said this in your guys' post-game pod, and I think he's absolutely right. We weren't, Iowa State fans weren't talking about the fact that Rocco Becht had an interception that was dropped. It's tough, and sometimes you got to get lucky, which is something that Avery said after the game. It's better to be lucky than good sometimes. You hope that he can just kind of learn from that. But with all of the other problems, I just find it very hard to focus in too much on Avery after he puts up a career high in yards thrown and then ties his career high in touchdowns. I think that the signs of him getting better are there. The signs of the receivers being, not all world like maybe we were hoping they would be initially, but definitely better are there. And for me, that's maybe the biggest positive that I'm taking away from Saturday's game.
Give me your thoughts on where Avery's at right now.
There were 2 plays early. It was pretty, I think, almost the same exact play. It was just a tight end in the flat, and he almost had it picked off twice. I mean, it should have been picked off both times. He just either didn't see the defender there or what, but it should have been intercepted. I don't know if that's something to do with there's not much of a progression to his reads, or someone's telling him to force that pass there. But like Tim said, Avery said it's better to be lucky sometimes than good. The touchdown pass obviously probably should have been intercepted or at least knocked down, that I think Tibbs caught.
Yeah.
There's still moments he has where it's kind of like, what are you seeing? Well, what was the thought process? But it's better this year. He's still missing some things, but it's better. And even though he should have made a mistake so far, he hasn't. And that's been the big thing. There hasn't been a mistake yet this year from him. No interceptions. He's just hasn't made a mistake yet.
I thought it was interesting, Gills, that his PFF grade was that low. It was really not good. And as he pointed out, his stats were really good. So that means they're looking at the actual play, what he's doing. And he's settling a lot in his targeting. And I asked about Chris Kleiman today about his lack of runs, that, he had 9 yards leading up to the big run. And this is perfect. Avery needs to use his legs 10 to 15 times a game at minimum. GSP, I agree 100%. The coaches don't. Chris Kleiman was really cryptic about the backup quarterback situation. Could you make sense of what he was like? They know what they've got. Well, that doesn't mean it's positive. I think they live in fear of losing Avery Johnson this year and last year. And we saw the team wasn't as good when Avery's running ability was totally off the table and everyone knew it. But you can't live in fear. You can run a little caution. Granted, the chances of getting hit if he runs between the tackles are far greater, but go back and look at his career highlights. That's a lot of his touchdowns. Because if he gets through that first level and through your linebackers, he's gone. Particularly if you're pairing that play call with the right pass routes, which happened on the long run. Everyone got run off to one side of the field except for one guy, and there goes Avery. I don't like his only running plays being the RPOs. I don't think that's getting the most out of him. You've got to have some quarterback draws. Again, a foundational play of what's gotten Kansas State here is a running quarterback that is a legitimate weapon. Not in theory. He's actually used in games. And having a thoroughbred like Avery Johnson, quit making him trot. Let him go. Let him play. Maybe they don't want to do that against North Dakota. Almost lost. Maybe they don't want to do that against Army. Don't mess around here. But by the time they go to Arizona, they better have faith that Avery knows when to get out of the way and get down and protect himself. And when Avery needs to just play. He's not a pocket quarterback. Let him get out and move around and see the field. He does not like being in the pocket. He doesn't see well enough, and he doesn't feel the pressure properly. It's not his strength. You keep asking him to do his weakest part of his game. Again, I put that one at the coaches. Gills?
Avery is not a strong enough passer right now to just abandon the run game. So to bring that comment that you showed, Fitz, yes, but only if he's channeling his inner Colin Klein. If you are being timid and you're being shy as a runner and you are shying away from contact, then don't even bother. I mean, Fitz and Nicole, you guys have to help me out here. There was one run where Avery probably could have had a touchdown if he cuts up the field, but he went up to the sideline, right? I don't remember when this was, but you finally maybe saw that at the very end when they had to go score in the fourth quarter with, 30 seconds left, whatever it was. But if you're not getting an aggressive Avery Johnson on the ground, he's just not as effective as Avery Johnson when he is aggressive. And yeah, you want him to run 10, 15 times a game, but if he's not, I don't want to say willing, but if he's not taking that risk of getting popped and maybe getting nicked up and getting injured, well, it's not worth it. We don't know, like you said, Fitz, we don't know what Kansas State has behind him. I mean, we truly don't. We have no clue, thanks to a North Dakota game that should have given Jacob Knuth and or Dylan Duff, you have it, whoever number 2 might end up to be. Yeah, they didn't get that opportunity. And so if Avery Johnson is going down and he's going to get hurt, you don't know what you have. So it's frustrating. I get what you're saying with, he needs to run the ball more, but some of those runs, 4th and 1 against Iowa State. I'm sorry. Colin Klein picks up a first down on that play out in Dublin. It's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah, but he's a different quarterback, right? Like, I agree.
But you can still act and carry that mantra and be tough and go get that 1 yard when you need it.
I don't disagree with that, but he's a different kind of runner. Like Avery Johnson is not the kind of runner you want to run between the tackles. Like I'd rather see Joe Jackson get the ball on 4th and 1 than Avery Johnson, because Joe Jackson can take a hit and he can get back up. We don't know. I think Avery Johnson can take a hit between the tackles and get back up, but is it really worth risking it to get 3 yards with your quarterback when you can get 3 yards? You hope you can get 3 yards with your running back. At that point, what you're talking about, Gilbert, is dependent upon your offensive line. Can you trust your offensive line to get 1 yard? Really, that's what we're talking about here. Avery Johnson needs to run the ball. But let's not forget that You always have to have a yin and a yang to be successful. And right now, he doesn't have his yang. He doesn't have Dylan Edwards. We haven't talked about that at all. There is something to that. The whole entire offense this season was predicated on having number 2 and number 3. And right now, you don't have number 3. And so how the coaches adjust to not having Dylan remains to be seen. They've had 1 week of practice to do it. I think we saw some good things with Devon Rice. I want to see that kid get in the game more. But this idea that Avery Johnson is a problem, this idea that Avery Johnson is holding this team back, people have actually suggested that on social media, on our message boards. I could not feel more completely wrong about that. Like, Avery Johnson is not the problem. He didn't play very well, but when K-State needed to win the game, when he got the ball, the last chance, he drove his team down the field and they won the football game. Regardless of who they're playing, he got the job done. And the next time K-State's in that situation, he's going to have confidence that he can do it again, because K-State will be in that situation. And me personally, there's nobody else on this K-State roster that I want with the ball. Give me a chance for Avery Johnson in this offense to touch the ball and go score to win the game, because I feel like more often than not, they're going to do it.
Okay. Well, my problem isn't really Avery. It's how they're using Avery.
Yes.
And
that's
they're
kind of
not
what I was trying to get at, I guess.
using him in his strengths.
How much?
Any final thoughts from you on where this team's at, or maybe Avery?
No, I feel like, yes, what just happened and on Saturday was not pretty. It wasn't pretty. But you have a chance to right the ship against an Army team that did lose to an FCS school in Tarleton State. It's just about bouncing back. After that, you don't get another give me game. Not that North Dakota was, obviously, but you don't have that. You go to Arizona, which isn't technically Big 12 play, then you're in Big 12 play. You don't get another chance to right the ship after that.
No.
So yes, it wasn't pretty, but the big thing is you won. You got to move forward. You've got to work on your discipline. Like everyone here has said, Army will beat you senseless if you're not disciplined. I mean, that is the whole point of the triple option. Your safety bites on the running back, the quarterback's going the other way. It's just, you've got to right the ship. It's not a Big 12 level team, obviously. So just, you got to bounce back. And Avery's not the problem. I don't know why people think that. Like I said earlier, he hasn't made a mistake that he would have last year to this point. It's just right the ship, take care of Army, fix the problems, the glaring problems, because after that, there is no more, okay, let's fix this next week. It's Big 12 here on out.
Tim Everson, I was going to give you the last thought, but we got a super chat, so you get to answer the super chat. Avery is that Christmas present that's too expensive to play with. My parents brought me back an expensive carved bat from Mexico when I was a kid. Within 5 minutes, I'd swung it and hit something and broken it. Question, are the players there for the money or for the fans? That could affect the intensity. This is a thought, Tim, that's going around. I've expressed it too, that in this NIL age, there's a lack of passion for the effort. We got our money. We're fine. We're good.
I mean, I is there probably something there? Yeah. But I would say you're paying them to be passionate. So they should probably be passionate. I would say, I like my job and everything, but I show up to the Manhattan Mercury every day, not for the sports, but for the money. But I still do the job. So at the end of the day, whether it's one or the other, they still have a job to do, and that job is to have that intensity. And so if I was not doing my job to the level that my bosses or coaches in this case wanted, I would be, a management change would happen on how they were managing me. And so that comes back to coaching. If the coaches aren't getting the return on their investment that they want from these players, that are, they gotta figure it out. You're now their bosses also. Your bad play has to have consequences.
It's very true. And you know what, whether you're getting paid 6 figures to play sports at Kansas State or 0, you've agreed to it. You've taken a roster spot. If you don't like the deal, then get out of the way, because someone else wants that roster spot. They're limited now. So if you take the job, you probably should do the best job you can. That's how life works. Because if you settle on just getting by, well, that's how your career is going to go, whether it's in football or journalism. That's it. We're done. That's it for the insiders. We appreciate everyone watching. We'll hopefully have Big B back next week. I saw him in the comments. He wasn't available, but he's in the comments. Oh, seems like someone's slacking.
Thank you for watching the K-State Insiders. This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production.